Got the Syndra for Carzzy in the bot lane popping off. And what's the first pick gonna be?
I mean, Varus Kalista, as we talked about, top 2, it feels like Varus is the S tier, so I don't see why you'd want to trade back and forth. And it looks like G2 will take the bait, in theory, if Mad Lions do have something prepared here. We're going to see if this bites them, because Varus is, as mentioned, very oppressive, very strong in lane, and the lethality build is so obnoxious to play against.
And that's the big thing, it's the lethality build. Now we'll pay attention to what Varus is going to be building in-game. It's probably going to be the lethality build because it's so cost efficient, especially with that Umbral Glaives, I think is how you say the item.
Yep.
It's just so cost efficient for this Varus. And we knew it was going to be a trade. You knew it was going to be coming with the Varus first pick, so they're willing to trade it for the Kalista. Now, again, Kalista can be rotated around. Maybe it's top lane Kalista. Maybe Orome actually gets to play the carry. I see your face,
That would be,
Jankos.
I mean, that would be a new look for Orome. That would have been a lot of development over the offseason.
I do suspect it to be Carzzy's pick, and it looks like Mad Lions are playing this one pretty close to the chest and saying that, okay, we know the strategy that works for us. It's day one, game one. Let's play around Carzzy.
And close to the chest in that they're matching AD carry picks immediately, giving that respect potentially over to Wunder, and also maybe trying to hide as much information they can as to about the rest of their comp. The Lee Sin, very safe, very standard jungle pick. Nidalee, a pick that is open, that we've seen a lot internationally, that may or may not get picked up here. Have to see how G2 Esports want to approach it. But when you have a Kalista and you have a Lee Sin, I love it. I feel like a lot of early to mid game already coming out for Mad Lions. No sitting back and scaling. They want to fight fire with fire, and frankly, I respect it.
And it's also Shadow's Lee Sin of all champions. So you already kind of talked about why Lee Sin still kind of cropping up. I had some questions around Shadow, how he's going to kind of fit in the, not the new jungle meta, but how the jungle meta has evolved to more of these farming-oriented junglers like the Graves, like the Nidalee. But instead, Shadow staying true to his roots. I'm a Lee Sin player. It's my best champion, and I'm here to gank all day.
And I like it. Now we've got Jankos, of course, with the Rek'Sai. I would say an even more early game focused jungler, as Lee Sin always has that kick as an out in the late game for relative strength. But Rek'Sai doesn't quite have the same luxury. That said, paired now with Caps' Zoe, you've got yourself a lethal duo in mid jungle. And Mad Lions feels like taking a bit more of a back foot on this one, respecting the Zoe, not going for anything more aggressive in the mid lane, and just taking a safer control mage.
Yeah, but there's so much control already with G2's first 3 picks in terms of river control. Once Zoe is able to compete and contest with Orianna's wave clear, her control over river with the Sleep Trouble Bubble, and then you have Rek'Sai Tremor Sense on top of it. And that's something that I always look for G2 is how well they skirmish around river. Although when G2 were undone in that best of 5 with Mad Lions, it felt like time and time again, it was river skirmishes that just came up heads for Mad Lions. So this is a team that very young, very aggressive, won't back down when G2 say that they want to fight you. The Mad Lions buy in.
Yeah, I love it. And both teams are packing the firepower to fight early if they want to. Now G2, I would be terrified for Mad Lions if G2 start to pull ahead at all. Once that mid lane tower goes down, it's just honestly a champion buffet for the Rek'Sai and the Zoe. They can start to find picks into those side lanes, but they're banning away a lot of the ranged supports here, clearly giving a lot of respect over to Mickey, and it makes sense. You do not want to play against Varus, who already pretty much single-handedly can 1v2 most lanes, and a ranged support on top of that.
Just ruins days. Maybe they're trying to force Mickey onto like the Kench Varus combo. Usually.
Oh God, please no. Origin's like, yes, our time is now. Like that was the. Luckily, it's lethality Varus, so it's more exciting than on-hit Varus back in the day, the Varus Tahm Kench. But we'll see.
G2, as you brought up earlier, big proponents to playing more the Enchanter-style bot lane, so I would expect Mickey to go that way. And this is something that I wanted to point out. So now that kind of the initial tanks are taken away, Malphite is a big screw you AD carry button. This now leaves room for the bruisers. So Wukong comes out. He is considered a strong enough blind pick as soon as the tanks are taken away, things like the Ornn. Now, there is still the option of going for the Maokai, which is a good answer into Kalista, because you can use that W, get right on top of her, and hopefully you have the dive or the follow-through to take her down. But I feel like with the picks that G2 already have, they don't necessarily have the most consistent dive or backline threat.
What we're looking at here, Frosk, especially, oh my God, I can't believe you predicted the Tahm Kench. That
Come on, it's so
He's
obvious.
been nerfed into the ground. I didn't think we'd see him again, but here he is, rearing his big old catfish head. And Frosk, we have a lot of poke tools on the side of G2 Esports, but what we have on the side of Mad Lions is just wombo combo. That Cyclone, that Shockwave, the Kalista ultimate, the Lee Sin kick. G2 Esports have to play this one very carefully, because you talked about river skirmishes, and once there's one item, I feel like, on the side of Mad Lions, you don't skirmish that team.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to be fighting around that Kalista, especially post level 6. Although we need to see what Kaiser's going to lock in there. As there's the Mordekaiser, so actually kind of looks like a bit of a dated composition from G2. A lot of these champions, we talked about the Varus already, still having their high points right now, but you know, rounding it off with however oppressive this Mordekaiser gets later on, to potentially play a 1-4.
See Mad Lions, they're going to round it out with the Blitzcrank. Wow. I really like this setup. Obviously, if Zoe oversteps, Blitzcrank is a fantastic champion for punishing. The portal jump making it very easily to land the hooks. But we have two very different compositions. As you mentioned, G2 Esports feeling not quite in line with what we've seen internationally, but maybe they have something new to show us. And Mad Lions with a lot of AoE team fighting power here.
And a lot of agency to make pop-off plays. Now, kind of focusing on G2's composition, you already pointed out a lot of the poke. I do want to funnel in a little bit on this Tahm Kench pick. I'm not a huge fan of Mickey's Tahm Kench. I think Mickey's a phenomenal player. He plays a lot of like aggressive supports really well. Tahm Kench, not my favorite look from him. So I'll be paying attention to see how this one goes, especially now that he's joined back up with his partner in crime, Perkz. On the side of Mad Lions, agency everywhere. Any of these guys can pop off and be the carry with the champions that they have.
That is exactly what you want to see as we get ready for our first game of the summer split. G2 versus Mad Lions, gearing up and taken to the Rift. The vocal chop there gets me every time, and I'm really nervous that they're not going to mute our mics one day and you're just going to hear me and Frost. Because it's much less appealing when we're just... we're not professionally trained vocalists, despite what recent singles may have otherwise convinced you.
Dig yourself out. It's fine. We got a Blitzcrank. Just
take it. Go.
Keep digging down, Jankos. We got a Blitzcrank, Mad Lions. I mean, you've seen this one from solo queue. Everyone knows. Try your hand. Fish. See what you got. Some early trinkets going down, but otherwise a pretty standard defensive start. Meanwhile, G2, when they got vision of Mad Lions pushing on the bot side, they got that cheeky ward up on the red buff. It looks like they'll get information about where Shadow is going to start with this Lee Sin.
And we can already see, I think, Frostgrown, you talked a lot of agency on the Mad Lions side. Obviously, Blitzcrank, bam, early aggressive plays. On the G2 side, if we just compare bot lane summoner spells, it's a tale of two bot lanes right now. Both teams clearly have a different mindset and exactly what they want here out of the early game.
Hail of Blades Kalista versus Teleport Comet Varus. Do I need to explain this one?
I don't think you do. People can see for themselves. G2 maybe going to be on the back foot here. Varus, obviously, once he gets those items, once he has a bit more, you know, once he's able to spam those abilities out more and clear those waves, he doesn't necessarily have to interact, but can struggle early on. So let's talk a little about early game objectives here for both teams, Frostgrown. Because G2, as mentioned, summoner spells may indicate playing a little bit more chill, a little bit more back. But what exactly are Mad Lions trying to do with this composition early on?
I mean, kill them, particularly through the bot lane. It's also going to be pretty important to see if you can burn the Zoe's flash early on. As soon as you can burn that flash, because she doesn't really get to contest wave clear until level 5, you get a lot more control over that lane, get more control over mid lane, gives you more control over the rest of the map. So if there's an opportunity, I should expect to see Shadow kind of peek his head mid lane, see if he can get that flash from Zoe, and give Humanoid a lot more control there.
And for Humanoid as well, I mean, this lane just generally pretty safe early on as long as he avoids Jankos. I like it. He gets a little bit of early lane priority. He lays down that vision, trying to account for Jankos coming through the river as well as coming over the wall with the tunnel. So good heads-up ward placement and use of the pressure there. Yeah,
actually a lot of respect coming out of Humanoid. It's not super uncommon to see someone take a cleanse when they're across from Zoe. Obviously, you get tagged with the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. You then get nice chain CC from the Rek'Sai knock-up, and it's going to be pretty easy to walk you down, especially with Jankos on Hail of Blades, as he spotted out on that ward on try.
Not a bad trade there from the G2 bottom lane, but of course the G2 bottom lane has also been the G2 mid lane and then the G2 bottom lane again, and then at some point they were both mid laners. So if you're hanging out in chat, you can spam caps or Perkz to tell us who you think the better mid laner is in this case. Who would you rather see in the G2 mid lane? We've seen both versions of G2 now. Which one did you prefer?
Well, I got the chance to sit down and talk with Reckless on the Fnatic podcast just the other night, and he was basically like, Caps is the better bot laner and the better mid laner because he felt that he was more mechanically proficient than Perkz, that when you're across from Caps, you can really feel the fact that he's just thinking about the game. I think he said, quote, there's just one Caps, and sometimes he just does Caps things. So gonna have to go with Reckless there, Caps in both positions.
Damn. I feel like the Perkz fans are out there already they're just so upset already. But I think it's fair, like mechanically, individually, Caps is king. In terms of what he provides to the team, I think that's always where Perkz is edged down. That's why Perkz has always been looked at as such a historic player. But the public sentiment definitely very much agreeing with you, Frostcurrent.
And one of the big differences, though, is kind of the resource demand from these teams. Caps really demands a lot of resource and a lot of attention to thrive, as there's the TP.
That's a TP top lane. Now coming in, they're going to get the knock as well. They're trying to shut down this Wukong. That's going to be one sleepy monkey. Not going to be happy with that trade playing out. Orome still alive, though. This madman.
They're fishing back
He's not going back to the zoo. It's not going to happen. Oh, no. There it is. Right back in the exhibit.
Waving the white flag right there. Anytime you see a level 3 dive like that, now level 4 dive, it's pretty coordinated. It comes from straight from the playbook. So G2 have run that one a couple of times. You see that all the time from other teams. Or Orome, he often plays weak side of the map and got punished that time around.
Yeah, and that's the power of that Summoner Spellbook, because the Caps is going to be hurting too much from that one. Very easy for him to use that TP and trade out for something a little bit later as we move on. And putting that Wukong behind early is a very big deal, because Mordekaiser, despite the fact that we don't see him, you can all probably still remember what happened when a Mordekaiser started to take over a game or gets fed. It's hard to watch.
I also like Mordekaiser as kind of like an answer into Wukong, not necessarily just in the 1v1, but in this idea of how much threat Wukong will bring to a team fight. Now that he can spin twice, he just causes a ton of chaos there. And Mordekaiser just gets to press R on him if he really wants to and just be like, you guys don't have to worry about this. Like, I got this, this is fine. And Wukong really struggles against more AP-oriented top laners because his passive helps him against, getting the armor?
Yep.
And more of the AD bruisers. So things like Rumble, things like Mordekaiser are a really good answer for Wukong.
Yeah, and the passive, I think, is one of those things where new Wukong players are going to miss out a lot, but it's 30 armor if you get it fully stacked at level 1, and that's a huge deal in more bruisery matchups, something like a Renekton, something where once you've used your abilities, if you want to continue to extend the trade, but Mordekaiser does not care. He gets free magic penetration, he does all magic damage, and he's going to make this lane look pretty easy. And while Shadow has something to say about it, but the pullback buys Wunder a bit of space here. They don't really have the damage quite yet, but now with the wave crashing under the tower, maybe Wunder's going to be in trouble. Needs to land that Sonic wave. He's going to flash over, but still, Shadow manages to land it, and that is huge. Orome ticks over to level 6, and is going to be more than fine on that one. Good response from Mad Lions.
Yeah, really nicely done right there to just kind of brute force that gank, walk Wunder down, get the flash out of him, and then clean up on the kill. Now, this does mean that Jankos has space here to maybe look for the Ocean Drake. You can kind of see them popping their head around, and he's going to go ahead and pull it.
And this is pretty big when you think about you're playing against a Kalista team, Frostcurrent, who has a lot of that innate objective control, who could start to look for Elder Dragon as a potential way to really force this game wide open. And Elder Dragon's one of those things on this patch and in this meta that we've seen be hugely important for a lot of team compositions.
So in the LPL, there has kind of been a tendency where you are seeing more of the scaling picks. You know, we saw Vedius talk about it at top of show. You still have your Corkis, your Azirs, your Syndras kind of running around. But in the LPL, we're having a lot of like blind picks, Renektons and the Wukongs, the Kalistas, these champions that are really good on 1 and 2 items, and they can try to play for that Elder rush and just burn down these objectives, grab Elder, and snowball and clean a game out. So I feel like there's a lot of versatility actually in the meta right now, and we're going to see what teams prefer which. Do you go back and play the scaling, or do you try to play more of this mid-game centric comp and play around those Drakes?
And that is the question. Of course, not everything is focused on the early game here, but what we are seeing is now that there's a few levels under G2's belts, they are just dominating this bottom lane. So much pressure has been put down top lane that it's just allowed them to take full control of these waves. Obviously, no real wave clear on the side of the Kalista Blitzcrank lane, so Perkz just gets to queue that wave through, push it into the tower, take absolute control, and you know, this is the kind of play that you love to see from G2, where they start to take over a game with just small advantages, and then it just starts to snowball out of control so incredibly quickly.
And this is also a staple of what G2 have been doing with their bot lane, regardless of if it's Perkz or Caps. Reminder that when Caps was playing that Taliyah bot lane, they did something very similar, where it was kind of like level 2, level 3, they're diving behind the tower, they're constantly brute forcing these bot laners out, and it's so well played with G2's pressure game to pull Perkz and Jankos over there and completely push Carzzy and Kaiser out of the picture.
And it's so difficult now because you can see Kalista has to buy boots too. She's going to be working towards Blade of the Rune King to sustain early in lane, but we're not that far from an Umbral Glaive for Perkz. That's 50 AD, it's 12 lethality. You get cooldown reduction for free for some reason, despite there being no cooldown reduction ingredients, and it's easy to buy. It's incredibly powerful. It denies vision, something Blitzcrank would love to have here in the mid game. So while I respect the Mad Lions, you know, they're getting this Herald, they gave it the Varus, and they wanted to try to counterpick it. We are seeing why people prioritize this pick, because it is so damn oppressive if it starts to win the game.
And just really gold efficient, and then hence a lot of wave clear, like you were talking about, the fact that they were able to just freely push waves, get them under the tower, and start chunking them out.
I like this. This is the first time I've seen this one. Of course, you can see the level difference, but we're going to see that shockwave coming in. And Shadow coming over the wall. That's a bold one there, buddy. We'll call that buying space for his mid laner.
They're pulling Kaiser. Bringing in the extra big guns.
I don't know if this is the situation where he wants to be pulling anybody yet, but we'll find out. So for now, Frosco, we've gone from what felt like it was going to be a very explosive, mad early game to G2 kind of matching them at every turn. So far, it's just 1-for-1, all that action around the top lane, and G2 pressuring out so much on the bottom lane that we do have almost 1,000 gold advantage. And now we've taken Carzzy's flash as well, so that Kalista's going to have to be careful because there's no Tahm Kench to bail him out if he mispositions this time around.
Yeah, 6 to level 5. I do want to credit Mad Lions for making that swap, trying to get Timbo back into this game by swapping up into the Herald, beating G2 to the punch, and now having that to potentially take down a tower. But you can see that Carzzy, he's been dragged around this map a lot. He's at an experience disadvantage now, 7 to level 5. He'll soon tip over to level 6, but that's kind of the a big option play for Mad Lions, is if you don't have that Kalista ultimate, you lose a lot of that kill pressure.
All right, Orome can Nimbus strike out, but now he has to run. Cyclone's going to give him a lot of movement speed, but he's already been pulled into the death realm. Keep in mind, he does not have the clone. He already used it a little bit earlier. He's going to use the second stack there, and Caps shows up, but he's just watching. He's just spectating. He says, don't worry, buddy, you got this. I'll respect the one-on-one. Gives him a golf clap, and Wunder's going to grab a kill.
He was really the cheerleader Zoe right there. I will say, though, that Caps has been involved everywhere on the map. Kind of back to Caps things. Just not even playing mid lane. He's just piecing out.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. Like, look at this. It's a 30 CS deficit in mid lane. I don't want to undercut what Humanoid's doing, which is making good on the time where Caps leaves lane, pressuring out, getting things done. But every time Caps leaves, he's getting something. That's a big deal. But now the Herald being used, Kaiser set up on the side. I don't think G2 really have the tools to defend this one, but I don't know if Mad can commit for the full tower. Looks like we do see the TP coming in. Mickey now caught off to the side. Only level 5 here from the Blitzcrank, so not going to have that extra ult burst damage. The flash away, Jankos. Challenging Spine as he now pushes forward. He's going to find the knockup. Carzzy, the king flash over. Shadow, not what he needed. He is going to be able to walk out, but now Jankos goes right back in. That is definitely not a good ult. Throw the Blitzcrank right into the middle of him. One more kill. Is it going to be enough to get 6? Because that's going to be huge. Kaiser trying to get that last auto, but no, Perkz just cutting him down. A massive arrow, and now Zoe coming over the wall, so he trouble doesn't connect. Kaiser, or Carzzy rather, trying to step his way out. Ulti connects, double kill for Perkz. Q over the wall. Will not land anything else, and Phase Rush will ferry Humanoid to safety, but that was a massive skirmish.
It was a really good read by G2 to see what Mad Lions wanted to do. I do want to credit Mad Lions still, though, you know, having Kaiser underneath, able to pick out Mickey, and yeah, not immediately burst him the Tahm Kench too tanky there, but being very creative about how they were setting up on the mid lane dive. But you could see that G2 read that, pulling the teleport from Perkz, Jankos standing very far to the other side of the lane, so...
Well, and I think maybe not even reading it, but just having the necessary resources to respond here. And this play is so tragic, both for Jankos and also for Kaiser. When we look back at this Blitzcrank here, I think he's just trying to get this last auto. He just desperately wants to finish this kill, and he just can't get it. Luckily, Carzzy's there to clean it up, but now you see the raw power of Varus with the Q-Max, and Carzzy, yeah, just getting sniped out there, Frosco.
Yeah. Not much more to say. I do still think that G2 read it, though. That was, we didn't get to see the initial setup when it came back to the replay, but you could just see that G2 were like, okay, here comes the mid lane play. They want to play around the Herald. They pulled all the resources in, and credit to Mad Lion for getting a couple of kills there, but G2 held pretty well.
Overall, though, the gold starts to get a lot closer. And if we can, of course, take a look at the gold between each of the players. Observers, whenever you get a chance, thank you so much. Just to look at some of the differences we see in respective lanes. So despite the massive CS deficit in mid lane, Caps is about dead on even, a small difference there, but you can see the Varus, huge advantage, and now Jankos going over the wall, trying to steal this one away. The knockup. Jankos is going to take that one down. Perkz now backing off, though. They got what they came for. They do not need to overcommit for the fight. But the TP's here from Caps. Goes up the bubble, the pullback, that's gonna be 3. The ult from Kaiser, big damage. Infernal Rift now coming in. There's a monkey here, but he's not gonna find too much purchase there with that ult. It's Death Realm for Kaiser and Wunder on the backside. Meanwhile, this is an absolutely insane team fight. It's messy, it's a back and forth. That's gonna be a shutdown. Orome going over the wall. This one's a bit of a fiesta, folks, but Shadow will go down in the end, and G2 are still coming out on top. They've already got the Drake, and now with that Sleepy Bubble, Trouble Bubble connecting, looks like they're gonna grab the follow-up kill as well. Humanoid dunked down, Orome has to run for the hills, and G2 after that one are in absolute control.
And the extended fight, it was very messy, but it was G2 that came up on top and stole away the Drake. Right before the team fight happened, you actually saw the reset come from Caps. He's on base right now, but of course, since he has the spellbook, he's got his TP back up. And then here comes the double TP and what I like to call the clown car ward, where it's the 2-for-1 special. You think you get one TP, suddenly multiple people are flying off of it. Now the team fight starts and it looks good. I like the fact that they hit the shockwave and then Kaiser goes forward to try to immediately silence and follow up on the burst damage. But things get really messy from here, and G2 do a really good job just kind of standing in front of Perkz and letting Caps and Perkz use this poke to chunk people out.
And I think the thing that we start to see here is part of the reason why like you'd want to pick Kalista in theory is you've got the sustained damage, Varus blows his cooldowns, you get your wombo combo, you can clean up a fight. But the problem is if the fight goes long enough that Varus gets 2 Qs, you're doomed, Frostgren. And that's what we saw. It's such a long fight that Varus is like, oh yeah, 2,500 damage, I'll take another Q. Like, sure, your time is over, buddy. It's my turn again.
It's like a Nidalee spear that hits multiple people.
That, you know, that doesn't sound imbalanced at all. And travels, I think, what, twice the speed? Yeah. Wholesome. You can see why it gets toned down a bit.
They made their bed.
Absolutely. But of course now, 3K gold lead, double dragons. It should have been a dragon over to the side of Mad Lions. And Varus is only getting stronger. On the way to that second item can be the Youmu's, can of course be the Duskblade as well. And Wunder's getting scarier. Obviously very comfortable in that 1v1 versus the Wukong. Caps is on one item, and mid lane tower I think has to be the next big objective in the side of G2 once they secure this Herald.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. They'll get the Herald. I expect that they'll use it into the mid lane. Now, there is still a lot of great wave clear on Mad Lion's side. The fact that Humanoid is on something like the Orianna, he has both access to his flash as well as his cleanse. So they're going to have to at least force him to back up, but he should have reinforcements. And Mad Lions are showing that, you know, they're ready to look for these skirmishes and these fights. So as we see G2, they're pulling down to Carzzy.
Oh, just pulls him straight into the Death Realm. Carzzy maybe feels okay about this one as soon as he dodges out on the E, but now he's trapped in melee range, and the positioning there on the Death Realm is so solid. Perkz wants to snipe that one out, but Wunder will go on a rampage. Respect to Perkz, throws 2 abilities to try to kill steal that one. He just wants an assist, friend. That's all he needs.
Carzzy, I want to say, stayed a little bit longer than necessary to force that tower down. I'm like, they're going to go mid lane. They're going to play the Herald, and then maybe they'll get the Wukong to come down, look for the flank. This will be the big team fight. But Carzzy's like, I will overextend for this bot lane tower. It's fine because in the ring around, Wukong also gets top. So, hashtag worth?
Absolutely. And Frostgren, when we talked about this matchup coming into the game right after Analyst Deaths, like, oh, Analyst Deaths are all in favor of G2. We're like, there's some potential for Mad here. And a lot of that for me was because sometimes G2 just, well, they mess around a little bit on day one, as we see here. Cap's going to get kicked back. That is far too clean from Shadow and Humanoid. Excellent play there. We'll forget anything I was talking about. Well done by the side of Mad Lions.
Sets the ball for Zoe to come back immediately into Shockwave and just spoon feeds it to Lee Sin. That was so clean from Humanoid and Shadow.
Shadow and Humanoid, professional footballers. They're in the wrong career path.
That was a, you know, open your mouth, Shadow. Here comes the airplane. Just spoon fed.
Now what's the follow-up, however? Good news is, like, obviously the Orianna is scaling up. A few more items means that a shotgun effect in these fights will be good. But let's take a look at this one more time. Playing
super aggressive there, Caps. Making sure that, I mean, Caps is thinking like, yeah, I'll eat the shockwave, but I'll tag him with the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. It's fine. Like, I'll trade for the ultimate there. But then when Lee Sin shows up, it just finishes him off. Yikes.
Yikes. Indeed. Yeah, that one very difficult. Now we see Shadow with a few more items under his belt. Of course, ultimate not available quite yet. Meanwhile, this fight breaking in the mid lane, and Perkz has now been isolated, but he can't finish to kill. That damage has to be illegal. There's no way that's allowed. That was far too much. Well played by Perkz.
And here's the play that we were talking about earlier. We knew that the Herald was going to go into the mid lane position, and now that Humanoid is also dead, it's going to be far more advantageous for G2. They're going to get a big chunk on that second tower.
And that's very scary now, Frostgren. G2 pushing in. Shadow just going to smite that one out, and the rest of the team will pull back. This is not a team that you want to walk into Fog of War against. They've got the Tremor Sense, and they've got more than enough poke tools to one-shot. Let me check. Yeah, literally anyone on the enemy team.
Did you do the number math there?
No, I just pretended I did the number math. I just paused dramatically so people would think I did. But, yeah. 2.5 item Varus. There's a Zoe who is level 11. It's going to be more than enough.
Yeah, and unfortunately, because they lost their primary wave clear with the Orianna, it was 2 towers. There's then waiting for Mad Lions to respawn, get back out on the map, means that G2 can just fall back to his Infernal, reset. Baron's not even up, so there's nothing that Mad Lions can trade. They lost really massive right there.
Yeah, because the thing is now that we're out of the Mad Lions kind of advantage state, as we go further and further into favor of G2 here, 3 Drakes as well, we're waiting for that wombo combo. We've been here before. You see it anytime there's a lot of AoE on a single team. But I think the thing is it gets harder and harder when the enemy team can just choke all of your vision out.
Yeah, especially with items like Umbral Glaives that you were talking about, that will help G2 stay really safe and trying to avoid that potential wombo combo, because it really does rely on either Kaiser setting up, Carzzy setting up, or Orome getting into those back lines.
And now you see the gold here, a pretty clear indicator of what exactly is happening. Both Perkz and Wunder are far ahead of the curve. Caps, of course, suffering a bit in gold, but as we mentioned earlier, he's not really laning. He's playing Season 2 League of Legends, or Season 1, I guess, where there was a roamer. You know, we had weird bot lanes.
We call it the Moscow 5.
The Moscow 5. He's given us the Moscow 5 Caps impression. He is anywhere but his lane at any given moment. He is here to support the team, to make the plays that Mickey can't since he's stuck on Tahm Kench duty.
So devastating on a champion like Zoe because she is so oppressive in her range and her control of areas, and then you give her to a guy like Caps.
Yeah. Looking a bit grim here. He's going to try to steal this one away. Humanoid, though.
Small victory.
Yeah, quick on the trigger finger there. We'll steal the blue back, and luckily they're getting some pressure on top side. But I think this is the part of the game where it's gonna have to slow down a bit, just because until someone on Mad Lions missteps, it's hard for G2 to force a further advantage.
But we can talk about kind of where areas of the map are that G2's composition really thrives versus areas of the map where Mad Lions comp really thrives. Anytime G2 obviously get you underneath the tower, it's poke comp. It's gonna hurt. Playing around a lot of walls, being able to play off of the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, that's what G2 really thrives. So when you see them grouped up like this, you can see that no one's standing on that tower for Mad Lions for good reason. It is a death sentence. Now, Mad Lions, again, creating numbers advantage, hit and run style of League of Legends, finding someone in setup, and then trying to get that big wombo combo fight. But as I say that, this is not it, guys.
No. No, sadly, it's not. We're setting up, we're setting the stakes, and it's classic Caster Curse. We're like, there's no way. They need to set up the vision, and then they just sneak a Baron. They just break open an inhibitor.
It's that little voice in your head where you're like, okay, surely they'll find an answer here. But G2 are just like, no, there's no answer on the map. You picked wrong. We will take the inhib tower.
Take everything from you.
But not taking the inhib, which I like. Yeah. It's too early on in the game.
And remember, for Mad Lions, if this was last split, I think we'd look at a Mad Lions loss to G2 in week 1 and be like, it's whatever, you're the new guys on the block. But now they're the team that we really expect to be pushing third, if not more, after their victory over G2 last playoffs. So to lose in this fashion in week 1, where you just are kind of getting systematically at this point dismantled by G2, is not what you want to see from a team that I think we had such, I would say, high aspirations for.
You know, I don't actually really mind it. Like, I totally see where you're coming from. Yes, there are much higher expectations on Mad Lions. People are excited, they're behind them. But for me, I still don't feel like there's a lot of pressure on Mad Lions. I feel like it's more of like, we have the opportunity to go to Worlds and our first season at the LEC in one of the premier regions in the world. Like, they almost feel like puppies, and they're just like, they're chomping. Ready, I should have said horses, chomping at the bit. We mixed the analogies there. We're racing
There's
puppies
a lot
now.
of rookies. Puppies are fine.
Puppies.
They're very aggressive puppies. I don't know how that is for branding. I don't know how lions. They're lions. Why didn't we think of that?
There's that adorable thing, though, where cats and dogs have like little lion mane that you put on them. Have you seen that?
I like that.
We tried to put Ender in one.
We did. Successfully, by the way. He wasn't interested in that or the D&D that we played with him, but we tried.
But the main point is that if Mad Lions are going to get danced around or pulled apart, I would actually expect it to be in this fashion. You know, they have proven that their strength is that they're not afraid of you, that they are willing to step to you, but their consistent macro calls are still lacking comparatively to our big 3 teams, the G2's, Fanatics, and Origins. So I actually don't mind seeing them lose like this. I would actually expect it, especially across from a G2.
I mean, that's, I think, fair to say. I think a G2 loss is very often a question of when, not a question of if, at least here domestically in the LEC. But that said, still a lot of chances for Mad Lions to put up a good fight. Sadly, G2, I think, painfully aware of what Mad Lions' composition is trying to do and not really giving them any of those openings.
Well, there is going to be an opportunity. Infernal is going to be spawning in 26 seconds. This is how this is going to go. Either Mad Lions will survive this team fight. You can see Orome looking for the TP here, joining himself with the fight. Mad Lions know that this is like the line in the sand that they're going to draw, or G2 win here, rotate into a Baron in the game.
Yeah, the 2 dragons you do not want to give to the Varus Zoe composition are as follows: Infernal.
Ocean?
And Ocean, yes. Ocean most primarily, but now we have to see, are they just going to try to steal this one away before the fight kicks off? Kaiser taking a big chunk before the fight even starts as he misses the hook there. Caps free firing. No reason for G2 to commit here. They can just take their time on this one.
Exactly, which means that the onus is on Mad Lions to pull the trigger quickly before they get chunked out with poke here.
Orome waiting off to the side. They need to combine the Cyclone and the Shockwave.
Still watching Orome, seeing if he can get into that flank as Mad Lions playing dodgeball.
Absolutely, and they're not doing a super great job. They're losing a lot of health here, but that's a Shockwave only going to connect onto one. The rest of the team now kicking it off as a fight to start, but Orome's been caught into the Delph Realm, denying that Wombo combo ultimate. Wunder, though, going to be straight into the enemy team. He is going to get taken down at the end of this one. Goes golden, buys a bit more time, but now they're focusing down the Infernal instead. They just want the soul. G2's objective has changed. They're no longer interested in the fight. They get the soul. Maybe now they look to turn. Instead, they're giving that respect. They're backing off. Perkz going to throw down some damage, though. Orome going to dash out there. The Warrior Trickster will take him to safety, but Carzzy on the front lines, absolutely fearless here, but maybe should be giving a bit more respect because that damage coming in from G2 is far too much to deal with. That's the double kill for Caps. Jankos going under, coming right back up. Shadow trying to use him as a taxi, but it does not matter. G2, absolute dominance.
And that is going to be all she wrote, even if the game doesn't end right here. That's going to be like the big nail in the coffin for G2, picking up that other Infernal, wiping Mad Lions, and now marching towards the base.
And we thought maybe Mad Lions would have the chance to skirmish in the river, to do a lot of what they did when they beat G2 last time, but G2 have been in just total control here.
And I love that team fight because it's a great example of one of the things that G2 are strongest at, which is playing slow fights. Now, a composition like this, poke composition, you have to play the fight slow. It's about landing that poke. It's about those minute by minute, or excuse me, second by second decision making, like you called in the fight. It was about poking, and then as soon as the Infernal was low enough, they changed. It was about securing that in zone control. And we see it time and time again that G2 are consistently making the right second by second call, and that's what puts them on top of the LEC every time.
And Frost, the thing I have to point out there for communication is they recognize that Shockwave comes in. The thing we have to respect is Wukong. What happens immediately? Varus ult and Mordekaiser ult. Yes, it's redundant CC, but they know the only way they lose this fight is if that Wukong gets into their backline. Everyone is ready to stop that from happening, and just the control here. It's slow. It's patient. It looks like they're losing. It feels like Mad Lions are getting baited in, and then just like that, boom! Infernal soul damage. You didn't want to give it to him, and now you got to pay the price. So good from G2.
And we said, even though the game didn't end there, that was probably going to be the nail in the coffin. Now, Mad Lions still have the potential for the miracle. Maybe
oh, he cleansed. Oh, didn't work out there on the QSS.
I was trying. I was like, okay, we got to keep him interested. We got to keep it tight right now. And no.
Oh, no QSS. Just getting stunned there. It's nothing he could do.
Humanoid, as he's pushing bottom, he's like, this might be it, guys. I think it's over.
They were trying to find the pick, but Wunder, of course, just pushes R, and he's now stolen all of Shadow's stats, and I think this is, as mentioned before, the victory lap for G2. Perkz potentially in trouble here, but the entire team collapses to protect that KDA. Do not let this man die. Orome, on the other hand, will get taken out with the fourth death of this game. Rough start here for Mad Lions, but as we're starting to learn, the meta is defined by G2 in the LEC. Whatever they play, even if we haven't seen it quite yet, is probably damn strong, as we've learned from this Mordekaiser pick. And now the final fight breaking out. Mad Lions, one last desperate hold here, but Jankos will go gold, and Kaiser as well will dodge the obliterate from the Mordekaiser as Jankos is now on the retreat. Kaiser trying to get something done, but just hand delivers another kill to Wunder. Will get saved here by Mykix, and it's just going to be a clean closeout from the side of G2. They're not looking to give up a single member on the back of this fight. Shadow wants to kick someone back into the fountain. He might not get much of a chance. That's the ace. The well-played heart comes out, and G2 will find their first win of the 2020 summer split.
And welcome back to the bot lane, Perkz. 909 on this Varus. He's getting in shape. They're looking at Worlds. They say, we've got nothing less to prove. We're just here to win.
And the thing about watching International League is the Varus is banned so much we haven't gotten to see it. But in the LEC, they give you one chance. They show it to you so you know why it's banned. We have to appreciate that from Mad Lions. I don't think we see that champion again for the rest of